Okay, we are now reviewing for the Chapter 1 test, and I don't know if you even know what was on Chapter 1. I'll give you some things that you learned at the very beginning. Do you remember there were 3 ways to write? There were acceptable notations I'm talking about. So let's say I knew the numbers on a number line, which is one of your notations, were between 3 but not 3, all the way up to, let's say, 8, and it's filled in. Can you try to remember the other 2 notations for that? I'll pause for a second while you give that a try. Okay, hopefully you remembered it was between 3 and 8, parentheses when it doesn't work, and when that is included or works in the solution, then you make a bracket. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Remember what it's called? Interval notation. That one's called interval. The next one is, it's got these squigglies. Remember what that's called? Yes, set builder notation. And this would say X. Notice we only have one variable. If this had been one of these things where all of these are shaded and etc., then we can have an X and a Y. You see what I'm saying? But in this case, we didn't have 3-dimensional or 2-dimensional. We just had 1-dimensional. And so therefore it's just X where, and then this could be written in more than one way, but I'm going to say where X is greater than 3 and where X is less than or equal to 8. That's set builder notation. I hope that rings a bell. Okay, now let's do one where it's kind of 2-dimensional. Let's say it was X comma 7. Oops, and I need it like this. Colon, or sometimes they use a slash for a bar, but I'm going to use the colon, where X is greater than 8. Would you draw me the graph of that? Draw the graph for me of that. Actually, I should have these little scripty things on the end for set builder notation. Again, the graph on this, since we have an X and a Y, is 2-dimensional. I'll pause while you try that. Okay, so here's how this one would work. You got to first of all find where X is bigger than 8. Would you agree that X being 8 is like right here? And notice I said bigger than 8. I didn't say it could be 8, so there needs to be a dotted line there. And then it's things that are bigger than that, so I'm shading this way. But that has to also overlap with other information I was given. What other information was I given? Right there. What was that telling me? Y was what? Y was 7. So here's where Y is 7. And so there's this line that goes this way. So would points that are here work? No, because X is supposed to be bigger than 8. X isn't bigger than 8 there. So this part of the line doesn't work, but this part does. And that's your only answer, is that part right there. Why wouldn't a point right here work? Because it doesn't have Y equal to 7. So none of this worked. The only thing that worked was right in there, and that's your final answer. And you'd actually erase everything else because this area didn't satisfy both things. So the answer is just that little part of the line. How could I have made it be like a shaded region? Well, then I could have said X comma Y, and then would have to tell you that like Y's got to be bigger than 4 maybe. Well, then here's where Y is bigger than 4. Here's where 4 is, and bigger than 4 would be like this. Shaded upwards, and then X is 7 is like this, and it would be shaded in this zone right here. Except I said dotted. These should be dotted lines. This will give me the 12-minute warning, and that's okay. So dotted line here, dotted line there. All right, so that's some notation stuff. Now, what else do we have from Chapter 1? There was probabilities And we would say things like, here's A and here's B. Why don't you write down for me where's A union B versus A intersect B? Try to give the two different answers. Maybe do one of them in one color and one in another. Union and intersect were kind of a big deal. Okay, A union B. Union is like, I like to think of this as a guy raising his arms over his head and like saying, hey, everybody come in. Everybody that got an invitation from either A or B can come. And so that would be like this. These all got an invitation from A and B. These guys got two invitations. Does that like disqualify them? No, not on a union. The answer for the union one is all of those areas. Notice we're not shading out here because if you're out there, they didn't get an invitation. They're not in A or B. All right. Then the intersect part, if the answer was the intersect only, then we want this zone. That means they had to get two invitations, one from A and B. That's where the intersection is. Intersection of Highway 101 and Highway 7 looks like this. And where's the intersection? Right in there. It's where they overlap. All right. What if I had said same thing except probabilities? This would be the same problem if it was a probability question, except they might use words. Union, is that and or? Let's say this is anchovies, and this is bear. For your pizza, do you like anchovies or bear or both on your pizza? Sounds like a great pizza to me. What do you think these people like? They like anchovies and bear. Does that give you a hint? So this one's like and this one's like or. Because these people, do you like anchovies or bear? And they would say yes. Do you like anchovies or bear? And they'd say yes. And these people would also say yes. Do you like anchovies or bear? And they'd say yeah. I actually like them both. All right, so anyway, this one's like an or, this one's like an and. All right, next topic. Let's say, and I talked about probability. Oh, how about the not? So what if this person's an A not? That means they like everything except A. So this is like not, also known as the complement of. So A not, if you just had A not, it would be like this. Here's A, here's B, and A not is like it makes A the sun. Everything that's not A is what this person likes. They like every ingredient in the world except they don't like anchovies. So if this was a probability question, then would look something like this. Let's say this has 30 people in it. This has 5 people in it. This has 2 people in it, and there's some out here that don't like either one. Probably a fair number of people in the real world. Let's make it 43. Then my question for you is, here's a complicated one, probability of anchovies intersected with, well, I'll start with a fairly simple one. Probability of anchovies intersected with bear. Well, anchovies intersected with bear is 5. Out of how many things are possible? I don't know if you can read that. That's a 5 in there. So 40, 50, 80? I think it adds up to 80, right? Did I do that one right? Okay, good. Then, what about this? This is definitely more complicated. I'll leave 43 down here. We need that. Not A intersected with B. Probability of not A intersected with B. Okay, so first of all, not A. Not A is everything that's not in there, which would be the 2 and the 43. So both the 2 and the 43 are in the not A. So that makes a total of 45 things. Now I got to see where that intersects or overlaps with B. Where did that overlap with B? This is where it overlapped with B. Notice the 43 is not in there. Okay, so 2 is where they intersected, but that's not a probability. And you don't take 2 out of the whole thing because not everything was possible. Oh, wait a minute, maybe you do. You think it's out of 80 or do you think it's out of 45? Well, that depends on if it was given, and I never had a given in here, given that the person doesn't like anchovies or whatever. That's not the question. So this one is out of 80. There we go. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Okay, and that last thing I was referring to was, what if I said a given? And that's the hardest kind of all. If I said given that our person likes bear, or maybe it's because they've never had bear and they want to try bear. Given bear, what's the probability of not anchovy? That changes what it's out of because there isn't 80 people anymore. Okay, as soon as I said given bear, that means that bear is for sure in, and we're only asking people who like bear. That means these are the only ones we can ask because they're the only ones who like bear. So there's 7. 7 that we can draw from. Now, that's what's possible. Now, what do we want? What we want is the people who did not like anchovies from that group. Would you agree that 43 people here did not like anchovies, but we can't pick from them? Think about it. If we put a 43 over 7, do you get how that's going to be all screwed up? All right, it can only be the people we can pick from, which is in that blue shaded area. And so the ones who did not like anchovies, who were from this shaded in group, was 2, so that would have been 2 out of 7. All right, there's a summary of chapter 1. And I may not cover everything in chapter 1, but it's a pretty good overall review of chapter 1 stuff. Okay, so now if you need help on any of the other 8 or 9, actually 9, there's a total of 9 chapters. I'll make other videos for those.